Good evening. My name is Omari Al-Qadaffi. I am a Richmond native and community advocate working in housing, transportation, and food access. I also serve on the Executive Committee of Community Unity in Action, a leadership organization that monitors Richmond's social and economic justice portfolio. In late 2016, my mentor, the late Lily A. Estes, observed my successful effort to reverse a recommendation to discontinue a bus stop that served a low-income African-American community in Richmond's East End. She invited me to a stakeholders meeting for the Richmond Transit Network Plan. It was there that I learned of this effort to redesign every bus route of the Greater Richmond Transit Company. Transit planners told us that this plan was supported by public input and expressed the community's desire to have reduced coverage in their neighborhoods in exchange for faster, more frequent service. As I began to analyze the proposed changes, it became obvious that many areas of the city where transit coverage would be reduced were areas where a majority of low-income people of color, such as myself, resided. Furthermore, statements and published documents by transit consultants, City of Richmond staff, as well as GRT executives did not hide the fact that the chief motivation behind the redesign of the network was to design the network in such a way as to encourage potential customers to leave their personal vehicles at home and choose to ride the bus instead. This segment of the population is known as choice riders, as referred to in a 2016 civil rights complaint filed against GRTC by the Richmond branch NAACP. These riders are often more affluent residents who can make the decision to ride the bus as opposed to transit-dependent riders who do not have that option. As the Richmond Transit Network Plan project moved ahead, in early 2017, myself and dozens of other black residents, community groups, and former elected officials of Richmond addressed all of these concerns publicly on February 13, 2017 at City Council as they unanimously voted to approve the Richmond Transit Network Plan despite our objections. On this same date, GRTC released its new civil rights policy, which doubled the threshold level for allowable disparate impact to people of color and disproportionate burden to low-income riders. The mandatory public input period for this policy change consisted of an online survey on GRTC's website for 15 business days in August 2016 and 1 day of administering a paper survey. A total of 63 people responded to this survey in this city of roughly 250,000 residents. Throughout 2017 and prior to the June 2018 implementation of the Richmond Transit Network Plan, there were countless times that I corresponded with GRTC executives, public officials, and transit planners to notify them of my concern for potential civil rights violations occurring within the required service equity analysis that was conducted by GRTC to assess the level of negative impact to people of color as well as to low-income residents. And now, VCU's Center for Urban and Regional Analysis has published a December 2018 report that concludes that the redesign of the network resulted in 22% of low-income families getting less access to public transit. My feeling is that these concerns have not been taken seriously. My feeling is that this extraction of public resources from people of color and disinvestment from our communities is a blatant continuation of discriminatory practice known as redlining. My feeling is that the recommendations for expanded transit service that were released in the city's Anti-Poverty Commission report worked on by my mentor Lily A. Estes have been used to champion the implementation of the Richmond Transit Network Plan and its accompanying bus rapid transit system to benefit affluent descendants of white flights who are now returning to Richmond. We are standing outside of a GRTC meeting where they will unveil a proposal to expand bus coverage in West End neighborhoods where a majority of white people reside. They propose to do this using savings gained last month from reducing coverage in black and low-income areas that have been devastated in the past by documented racially targeted land use policies. Today, on this final day of Black History Month, in the 400th year anniversary of the year that my ancestors were brought to this land to provide benefit and allocate privilege to people who did not look like me, we would not tolerate this any longer. I have filed an administrative complaint with the Federal Transit Administration's Office of Civil Rights to investigate possible violations to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. I'm calling for an end to the unaddressed suffering of people in this city. I'm calling for an end to public resources being diverted to the corporate community with little benefit to the public. I'm calling on the federal government to step in and bring an end to federal dollars being used to perpetuate systemic racism in Richmond, Virginia, and throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you. Any questions? I'll take any questions. No questions? Yes.
How long does it take? Is there a standard for them to respond to your complaint?
I do know that the last complaint that was filed in August of 2016, they responded in October of 2016. So that was the last complaint that Lynetta Thompson right here, when she was president of the, I'm sorry? It's 2 months.
Okay, 2 months. Okay.
But also at that particular time, the violation had not occurred. We filed that before
And
they had
anticipation of this
exactly,
impact.
and because that's why that's the way they responded back. Nothing had happened. Yes.
Yes, you're not allowed to file by a procedure. You're to file at the moment that budget operations commence. So at the moment that they start accepting fares from riders, that is when you can file the complaint. Any other questions?
What's the best case outcome for all of this?
Honestly, I feel that I was very lenient and fair with them. I gave a number of recommendations for remedy to the complaint. In all honesty, the service equity analysis that was performed, if that is found to be faulty and in violation, that would mean the entire system is in violation of the Civil Rights Act, and that would mean that they potentially would have to start over from the drawing board and conduct a proper service equity analysis on the routes that existed prior to June 2018.
Is there possibilities for damages and to supply service back to those communities? And damages to people who may have lost jobs, who may have gotten sick, who may have whatever. How do others file complaints and for remedy and redress?
The remedies that I propose to them don't include damages to any individuals. I anticipate that there would be a negotiation period where they would want the complaint to be withdrawn. So I anticipate that they would attempt to negotiate at that time.
You might have said this, but am I remembering correctly that way back when the NAACP came to City Council and said, you're going to be in violation if you change the routes like this, and warned them that this was going to happen? And they just ignored it?
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
What she's talking about at that time, because it was back then, 2016, when that happened. But again, they had not violated at that time because they had not broken ground.
Right.
But we had saw that in changing the routes, the impact it was going to have on those communities.
Right, yeah, so...
They had hearings and they're sure that wasn't going to happen, but then they changed.
Right.
As you can see from the report now.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you.